Welcome to Routine Rundown. I'm your host, Senior Beauty Editor Zoë Weiner, and I am here today with Rajnji Jacques, who is the Global Head of Fashion and Beauty Partnerships at Snapchat. Rajnji and I coincidentally go way back. We worked together at my first job at Glamour Magazine, where I was a baby assistant and she was a queen fashion editor. So this is really exciting because we haven't seen each other in 10 years. So this is an exciting day.
Exactly. We haven't seen each other. And the funny thing is, I remember when you were leaving Glamour to go off to school and do your thing, and you were so clear what you wanted to do. And so it's really nice to kind of see it's all like full circle. You're doing what you set out to do. So congratulations to you.
Thank you. And you are crushing it too. You are at Snapchat. I feel like the job that you have now is like the 2023 version of the job a million girls would kill for, like that we used to talk about back in the day. So tell us a little bit. Let's start with your path and kind of how you got here, and then we'll get into what you do at Snap.
Awesome. As you mentioned, we worked at Glamour together. So honestly, I just started at really in traditional publishing. And working on a tangible book. And at the time, it was mainly the book, and there were some experiential things. But, I would say, there was kind of a shift where the magazines and publishing really needed to invest in digital just because the context of the world, the way of the world was going digital. So once that started to happen, you could kind of feel that change happening. So my remit got a little bigger, and it got bigger at magazines. So I was doing the actual tangible magazine. I was also working on the digital side of the brand, doing branded content plays, anything that was experiential, and just kind of running the gamut. So I feel like I became a multitasker in that, where my job had so many different facets. So doing fashion news to becoming a fashion director, and even like doing fashion creative direction at the magazine was super, super important. And, my background runs the gamut. I feel like every magazine I've worked at in the past has been very much different, from Vibe to Nylon to Glamour to Teen Vogue to Allure. And I love that because I was able to work in a space where I got to connect with a different community, but I was also able to bring a different voice. And the voice that I had at my previous, I was able to implement it in my new magazine job. So it was a really, really fun time. But about 2 years ago, there was just something in me where I knew that I wanted something more. And so the move to Snap was really to kind of expand and utilize my editorial skills within the tech space. So, I wanted to learn more. I wanted to do more within the fashion and beauty tech space. And also just because, again, I could see where things were headed. I could see how people interact and engaged. And I knew that I wanted to move along with that. And so it's such an exciting time within fashion and beauty and tech. And it's lovely because I do feel like it's doing kind of like this lovely dance together. And honestly, it was just a chance to explore and be creative without having like a ceiling, especially when it comes to AR, Snap AR. And I felt like there was endless possibilities to be creative. I also think like when people think of AR, they think of brand new tech, or they think of VR or AI, which I know AI is like a buzzword that's happening now, but AR is really native to the Snap community. I know you probably remember like the vomiting rainbow, and the doggy ears, the puppy dog ears. That is all AR. So really implementing that when it comes to brands and really kind of blowing up. And again, like I just want to hammer down, like being more creative and not having a ceiling was exactly where I wanted to be. So having these amazing partnerships with beauty brands and fashion brands are so helpful in changing the way that we shop, changing the way that we experience these brands. So, for me, AR and Snap was unique, and that's where I wanted to be. So that's how I ended up at Snap.
It is so wild to think about. Like, media was so different. Like, in the last 10 years, like, it was really only the book, right? Like, we had a digital site, we talked a little bit about the collaboration, and now the world is not like that. Like, I think about 10 years later, even at Well+Good, where it's not, we have the website, obviously, but everything we do is 360 across social media, across podcasting, across video. And I really think it seems crazy to think about like in 10 short years how much it's all changed.
Yeah, no, for sure. It has, like changed drastically, but just I think as, tech has grown, there's so many apps that are out there, it had to change. And also just because I do feel like beauty and fashion through social media, through tech, has been democratized in a way. And that really has opened up the floodgates to create more, to kind of be your own brand, for brands to experiment more within the space, And I think for me, when I think of my job at Snap, I take a step back and, for me, the goal is to kind of foster, facilitate, even accelerate our relationship efforts with fashion and beauty focused brands, creators, publishers, talent, like your industry personalities, and even editorial content, and working to kind of like drive that adoption and real deep understanding of what Snapchat can do. So it's really like about like, I would say like unlocking potential with brands and creators, and see what Snapchat can do for their business and what it could do for their individual brand.
And tell me, I've heard you talk about it before, the 3 C's of your job, I think, right? We were at an event together, and I love the way that you kind of explained what you do at Snapchat. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about that?
Yeah, I would call it, it's called the ABCs, is how I like to kind of structure it. And the ABCs are simply this. A is for augmented reality, and how I work with brands to use Snap AR to amplify whatever they're doing in their space. The B is for Bitmoji. I work with Bitmoji, your fun avatar, and bringing in brands, digital goods. We've done collaborations with everyone from Nike to Adidas to Crocs, Ralph Lauren, Off-White, and we do have like some fun ones. Actually, one fun one that I'm super excited for that is actually going to come out June 28th. And then C is for creators. I really work with creators and bridging the gap between the brands and creators. Again, like if they have a campaign or, some type of tentpole that they're doing, kind of, using AR in a way to give to the creators to amplify whatever they're trying to push out or whatever their marketing initiative is.
Amazing. My mom, who like can barely send a text message, changing her Bitmoji's outfit is like her tech pride and joy. It's her favorite thing to do. She loves. I have to tell her about this because she's going to be so excited. But she loves the outfits. They're so cool. It's like
Yeah,
I
it's
can't buy
super
Off-White in
fun.
real life, but I'm going to put my little virtual me in some Off-White.
And also, there's just like fashion in general. Like if you're a Levi's, denim jean wear, we have Levi's. We did a collaboration with them. Like you want to dress your avatar, or most people, I would say, want to dress their avatar how they're dressed in real life. So it's fun to kind of have this kind of a digital makeshift version of yourself.
How are fashion and beauty brands using Snapchat to reach consumers in a new way? And how is this different than, the traditional types of marketing that existed before this was all a thing?
Snapchat is the go-to destination to discover, to try on, to buy beauty products from brands that you love. And again, with AR making shopping more personal, and accessible than ever before. So I think brands on Snapchat really leverage a mix of large and micro influencers to really connect authentically with their audience and communicate, what the product is and what the benefit of using their product. I always say Snap is where the community comes to engage with the brand. It's not about looking at the brand from afar. Obviously, there are certain brands that are aspirational, but there is a different feeling when you feel like you're trying something on where you're actually like connecting with the brand in a way, as opposed to just, like observing from afar. So, I think like, especially in the beauty realm, the beauty and cosmetic brands are leveraging Snapchat's like strong network of close friends by promoting campaigns, that combine engagement. And again, like Snap is, you have your friends and your tribe. And I also think the thing is, with your tribe, you're going to say like, hey, does this lipstick color look good on me? And you're going to trust them to say like, actually, Zoe, it doesn't, or actually it looks really great. That in itself, because you trust them so much, that is kind of like your test of, oh, okay, well, if my best friend or my tribe is telling me it looks great and I'm trying it on via, via AR, then I would like to buy it because it looks great and I'm getting compliments on it. So that's kind of like where the friends come in. And I do think that brands see that. Brands see that. I think one, being genuine and being authentic is key now, especially in a market that's super, super saturated, as you already know. And so they want to kind of be part of that. I also think, AR and just shopping and how brands use it, it offers the community the ability to try on tons of things from makeup to skincare to even hair products from anywhere. You can actually do it at work, you could do it, from the comfort of your couch or your bed. And so it's finally a way to shop that's designed around you, the person and the consumer, and not around the brand. And so I think what, makes us very different from other platforms is that we kind of give that open invitation where shoppers can actually feel kind of like they're getting ready on their own time with, not like the added noise coming into them and saying like, let me give you this, even though you're not interested in that. Like you create around yourself, and that's the benefit.
The relationship between beauty and social media feels very the chicken or the egg to me, particularly in terms of trends and kind of how these things like really influence how like what's happening in real life is happening on social media, but then what's happening on social media is also kind of being obviously transitioned into real life where trends are kind of they're happening in like two different universes, right? So I'm curious how kind of what's happening in real life influences what's happening on social media and vice versa. And I think this actually extends to fashion too, right? Like I feel like there's so much inspiration in social media and again, vice versa.
I think in both, honestly, in both fashion and beauty, I'm a huge believer that trends happen on the streets. Trends are very community driven. And so there are these tastemakers, whether it's a state or a country or, some type of niche movement that's happening. These tastemakers show their trends on platforms, and then those trends blow up. But again, these trends happen because of what's happening in the world. Like if you ever like think of like all those, trends, like, all right, 90s stylists coming back, something is happening to kind of bring them back. And I do think for the most part, trends are cyclical. Um, for instance, like what are seventh graders wearing? What color lipstick are they wearing? Like, oh, all seventh graders are really into kind of this like deep purple-ish red. And you'll see that, and it kind of like permeates, like that type of tribe. Or, like one trend that I've been seeing too is, I was seeing young girls with stickers on their face, like these like star glittery stickers. And I was just seeing it way too often. So finally I just went up to a young girl and I was like, can I ask, like, where do you get those stickers? What does it mean? Is it like, like a movement? At one point I was like, is this a Taylor Swift thing? And and they're like, no, these stickers are to cover up our pimples. Do you know what I mean? Like, and you see that and you're like, oh, that's just a pimple cover up. But then you see that like in makeup trends, you know what I mean? Where like stars and glitter like come about in the makeup trends. And it's all cyclical. I do think there's like, like not one comes before the other, but it's less about what comes first and more about a cycle that goes round and round, and they both help each other kind of bring forth like what that trend is. And so it's like a nice mix that just goes round and round, to be honest with you. That's how I think trends do work.
Well, and I think it's so interesting. Like you and I live in New York. I think we see a lot of
Hmm.
trends, on the streets walking around here. But I think what social media has really done is kind of made those things, no matter how niche they are, really accessible to people everywhere, right? Like we're sharing with a much broader community in this way too.
Yeah, for sure. And it just, like I also think it's just one of those things where, again, like going back to that word democratizing, social media has democratized everything. There was a time where you had to be part of the 1% to be able to, push your clothing line, push your new beauty line. You have a new lipstick or like there was a time where you had to know someone in order to move forth. And I think what social media has done and what this digital space has done is it's given everyone kind of like a built-in marketing machine for themselves. If you have the desire, the creativity to kind of push forth, you can do it on your own. You don't need to hire an agency or a PR. Like, if you want it done, you could do it on your own, honestly, for free. And that's where the democratization that, we were speaking about, that's how it comes in, is because it's there for you to kind of market yourself. People are now their own brands. And brands also see that people are brands. So those brands want to tap into those people who are brands.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, if you're creative and you have talent, you have a platform, and that
Mm-hmm.
certainly did not exist before social media.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, that, it makes me think, and I think this is such a big question, but social media has obviously changed our relationship with beauty in particular a lot. And I'm curious how you think, like, even, we've been talking about 10 years ago, what is our kind of communal relationship with beauty now that social media plays such a role in it?
I mean, it's like social media and beauty is again like intertwined. I think for me, I tap into social media as a way to explore, as a way to explore, find new talent, as a way to explore, find new beauty trends, as a way to explore how to put on eyeliner because, like I'm not the best at things on, or like, oh, I want more of a wing thing. So sometimes I'll just go, you know, social media and just say, plug in how to do X, Y, and Z. And that has really, really changed the way that we engaged because I think back in the day, you would have to get a magazine or have to go ask someone. It would take time to kind of get the answer that you want. But this day and age with this digital revolution, like I can get that answer quickly and I could do it myself. It's not only about getting the answer quickly, but it's also about being able to kind of do it yourself. So for me, there's a two part. It's using social media for the better as opposed to kind of getting stuck in this realm of social media that, might not be that great. And so realizing how social media, again, I always tell this to everyone, is just 1% of your life and using it, for your advantage and taking advantage of it for the better is always key. But I also, again, like going back to beauty is just, I feel like beauty and fashion on social media are probably like the two biggest kind of like, two biggest topics is what are people wearing? How do I wear that? How do I DIY something? And for beauty, like, how do I create this look? How do I get inspired by people creating looks? One thing with that is, again, like as I said, using social media to kind of like tap in and explore and find new things is, for me, I really love to tap into AR creators. So, for instance, there's, a couple of AR creators. One woman, her name is Paige Piskin, who's like really changing the game and making beauty fun. So she'll create lenses that don't distort your face or change your face, but like cat eye lenses, that could be cool. That she taught me this trick is, okay, let me go on my Snap, put the lens on, take a picture of myself doing the cat eye, and then using that to then like draw it on myself. And those are just like cool ways, again, like that engagement, that being part of the story and not just reading the story. That's so important.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because I think there is obviously such a big difference between like a cat eye filter and then like a let me change my whole face
Yeah.
and pretend like this is what I look like
Yeah.
filter. And I feel like that's like understanding the difference between like the good filters and the, not like incredible.
Yeah.
I guess that sounds dramatic, but the like not so good filters.
Yeah, the thing is, how I look at it is AR does not take you out of where you are or your environment. It should just enhance it. And when I say enhance, it's not change. It's enhancing where you are. You're living in reality. And so you want to have fun in the reality you live in. You want to enhance the reality you live in. You don't want to change it. And so that is like really the difference between like, distorting lenses and then lenses where, again, like your tried and true MAC, OPI, Supergoop, where you're actually trying on the product. Nothing is changing on your face. You're just trying on the product. That's it.
Yeah, so it's like it really bridges the gap between like internet you and real life you. Because if you want, like, you could look like that in real life. If I
Yeah.
mean, I can't do a cat eye, so I probably couldn't do that part. But
I can't do one
I need to
either.
practice with the filter. That's a really good idea. I'm gonna try that
Yeah.
later.
Yeah, it's
Oh, gross.
really, really cool. And I was like, oh my gosh, like it's really, really cool. And you practice, and sometimes, I mean, like, again, I am not a connoisseur of or really great at putting on a cat eye, but like I've done it using a lens because I'm like, all right, well, that's perfect. So let me try to emulate. Let me try to imitate.
Amazing. And how you touched on this a little bit, but how do you maintain a healthy relationship with social media? I feel like that's a conversation that everyone's having right now. I'm
Yeah.
sure as someone who works in it, like I have to use social media a lot for work too, and it often is
Yeah.
hard. I'm curious, how do you find that balance?
Again, like I have to use social media a lot for work. I think for me, it's a work in progress, to be honest with you. But going back to like it's only 1% of your life. I have to like keep on like hammering down that mantra. Again, use it for advantages, not necessarily to kind of like create a world that really doesn't involve you. And so for me, I had to set boundaries on when I could use it, how I use it, when I should be on, how long I'm on, and what I want to consume. Changing the content that I want to consume has been a game changer. Like I just want like when I'm on social media, yes, I'd like to find new talent, new trends, beauty and fashion, but I also want to kind of, consume content that makes me laugh. So I'm a
Mhm.
huge meme person. I love like Twitter threads and all of that stuff. So again, it's a work in progress, but I use it as a form to communicate and be entertained, um, but not necessarily to kind of like compare. But that's hard. That is really, really hard. But I do think like we have to find a healthy balance on how we use social media.
I
It's a
mean,
must. It's a must.
we love a mute button. We love a Snapchat, curate your own community. It's really
Exactly.
we're all works in progress on this. It's
It's all yeah. Like listen, there's some days I fall in the trap, but as long as you can be like, okay, you fell into that trap. It's time to come back from that and understand what it is, and not I I I make it a daily mantra to not focus on social media in that way
Mhm. I love that.
because I do think that there are things that are out there that you don't want to be exposed to. There are things that are out there that aren't the nicest. But I also think that, with Snap and honestly curating and creating your community, it feels safe. It's like I'm around the people that I want to be around.
Mhm. Yeah, it's like I mean, it's like your real life friend group.
Yeah,
It's you create that for yourself, which feels
exactly.
a lot better to me for sure. Um, and I feel like, we started the conversation talking about traditional media and your journey. It feels like now we're at this really interesting tipping point where, you know, print media really gave way into digital media. And I think we're seeing a lot of that, not necessarily tension, but transformation
Yeah.
between digital media and social media. What does
Mhm.
that look like to you now? And what do you think comes next?
There's always going to be a tipping point in any sector. It's always going to come. It's part of life. But even so, I think, people get their current events, their style news, their beauty news, social news via social media. And so by seeing what their favorite creators are doing, what their celebs are doing and saying about trends. And so I do think people are utilizing it more for that. And that's always going to be part of that landscape.
Mhm.
Um, you know, I also think, like fostering, especially like on Snap, like really fostering a sense of authenticity and trust, which keeps people intrigued, is kind of where we are. What's next? Honestly, I think it's more about how people adapt to the changing landscape,
Mhm.
as opposed to kind of like X, Y, and Z is coming next. For me, as we spoke about, that traditional magazines started to change, I had to pivot and harness new skills. And again, became more of a multitasker, became, in a way, a jack of all trades, doing creative direction, looking at words, kind of like seeing the 360 picture of it all. And so I just think like that tipping point is also where we evolve. It's that point where we see what works, what doesn't, and where we want to be, how we want to create content for the future. So for me, I don't necessarily think it's an XYZ thing. I think it's, okay, evolving with the changing times.
You're talking about memes. I saw a meme the other day that somebody posted, but it was a letter from their grandmother, and it was like, I just need you to know that we were terrified when computers came out, and look how much that's changed the world. She was like, do not be afraid to embrace new technology and
Yeah,
figure out how to use it for you. And I think that's so, because it can be really scary, but I think,
it is.
I feel like a grandma when I go on to TikTok and Be Real and like all of these platforms. I'm like, I don't know how to use these, but it really is the future. And the more ways, of connection, I think,
It
embrace
is.
healthy ways is exciting.
Yeah.
Should
And
be.
it's so funny because I remember when I was in college and it was like, all right, everyone has an email. There was the computer lab, which is so crazy, like at that time. And I just remember me and my friends being like, who's going to want to sit in front of the computer all day? Nobody. Because it was so foreign, like for my generation, it was just so foreign. It was like, all right, we use it for work, we use it to do things, to get tasks done, to execute. But am I going to want to sit in front of this thing 24/7? No. And like, look where we are now. Like, whether it's your desktop at work, your desktop at home, or just like this device the mobile computer, like it's a very different ball game. But I do think like at the time, people, I think for me, it wasn't about being scared. It was just like, no, I want to be outside. I want to like do things outside. Like this thing is not going to change me, but it has. It really, really has.
Whereas, like, meanwhile, I was 12 and all I wanted to do was AIM, my middle school crush. I was like, I love this computer. This is great. Oh, man. Well, Rajni, because this is routine rundown, the last thing I want to talk about is your routine. Tell me about your beauty routine.
Oh my gosh. I am so simple. I love to keep things super simple. I think just for me, I'm kind of like a no fuss. I'm very jeans and t-shirt and a good accessory, a good shoe and bag. But I think that's the same for my beauty routine, to tell you the truth. When it comes to makeup, I like to, keep it clean, very clean makeup. And then I think my accessory when it comes to beauty is a red lipstick. But I love just like a face that I'm not personally into contouring. I love something that looks like I just woke up, I came from the beach, and then if I need to go out, I just threw on lipstick. And the lipstick is kind of like my heel in a way. But I would say my, I know people are going to be like, don't do this, but growing up, I'm Haitian and come from a Caribbean household. Ivory soap was the thing that we used on our face because it was like after a day of playing outside, walking outside, doing this, whatever, it just seemed to kind of like feel fresh and just dry your face of all like the nastiness. I have since evolved from that, but for a very long time, it was really about using kind of that tried and true ivory soap. And then I would use Clarins, the Hydrating Gentle Foam Cleanser. Use that. Then I would also use toner. After that, I would say the past year, I've been using, and I hope I don't butcher this because at first I was like, the packaging is so good, but then like the contents and like the product was awesome. Sulwasu.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. The concentrated ginseng serum and the first care activating serum. I also use Hyperskin vitamin C serum
I love
all
that
the
product.
time. Yeah, and I
So
use
good.
that I use that on my face and my neck. And that's kind of like my daily. Um, During the day, I use Black Girl sunscreen, and even like Supergoop has that tinted sunscreen that I also use for the day. I love Ilia concealer, especially if like I've had a pimple or a blemish and there's a little hyperpigmentation, put that on, ready to go. I swear by Glacier Future Dew. It's perfect. You just put it kind of like here, and it just makes you look like you're just like super, super fresh face. And I love, what is it? Holy Glass Balm Hybrid. It's this kind of like this glassy lip balm, but it just keeps your lips hydrated, and it just always looks like you have some type of color on, or not even color. Just it just makes your lips look really, really supple. And then at night I do Clarins. I do the same washing routine, but I love the Clarins Orchard Blue face oil. Under my eyes, I use Shani Darden. I also use Costa Brazil, anti-aging, and then I honestly massage my face over and over again. And I do what is it called again? I'm also going to butcher this. Guasha?
Oh yeah, gua sha.
Guasha. Yeah. So I'll use that at the end of the night to kind of like massage my face and kind of put my body to rest. And then I would say for my body, I always use old school shea butter. I get it from African markets, like the block of shea butter that lasts me for a long time, and that is all over my body. And then I also do like We the People. They have a nice kind of like shimmery oil for the summer.
Amazing. Such good brands. Like, what a staff routine. Also, like, such good, like, social media. I mean, they're all great products. Like, I feel like those are brands that I see all the time, and a lot of them that I found out about on social media.
Yeah, I would say probably the same. I probably found out them on social media. It's like, actually, that's cute. Let me try that. So, yeah. But I, when it comes to my routine, I like to keep it super, super simple. And like I said, even with my makeup, eyeliner, if I'm going out, but it's just mascara, a little blush, Future Dew, lip gloss, and red lip when I'm really going out.
And when all else fails, there's a Snapchat filter for when you're staying home and need makeup on.
I'm like, I need to do that. I need to look good because I look tired right now. Yes.